welcome to Chicken Parmesan Day. We are gonna be going through how to make chicken parmesan, learning the steps of dredging and frying, and enjoying such a delicious meal. So let's get ready to roll. Okay, you guys can see that I have my mise en place set. I have my chicken, I've got my knife ready, the sharpest knife you have. I have my sheet pan covered in tin foil ready to go. And then I have my dredging station, and I have my flour, which I've added a little bit of salt and pepper to. I have my egg that has been whisked, and then I have my panko crumbs, and I have a lot more than you because I'm actually making enough for my family. I added Parmesan cheese to this and a little bit of Italian seasoning just because I had some ready. Also, you will see I have my stove ready. Back here, my sauce is warming up, and I have my pan with oil on the bottom ready to go. These are beautiful ciabatta rolls that my husband just made that just came out of the oven. We're actually gonna make our chicken parmesan into sandwiches today instead of just eating it on pasta. One thing to note is when you're frying, I like to use a light colored vegetable oil as opposed to an olive oil. Olive oil has a lot of flavor. It's a heavier oil, and in this case, you don't really want to change the flavor too much, and so that's why I use that. So this is not turned on yet. My sauce is because it's warming, but my frying isn't turned on. I'm not going to turn that on until after I've done all my chicken. But let me show you this next step. All right, the first thing we're gonna start with is our chicken breasts. Now yours are smaller than these. These are ginormous chicken breasts. And you want to see if you have any extra skin or fat, you wanna just gently cut that off. Now if you pull, it makes a nice tight area for you to cut that off really easily and get rid of it. Again, mine are so much bigger than yours that I'm actually gonna cut them in half this way first. This is about, I'll put this on the side. This is about the size of your chicken breast that you're working with. Now chicken parmesan is made out of chicken cutlets, and a cutlet is just a really thin slice. So this is where you're gonna use your knife skills. You have to go slowly. There's no rushing this. And you're gonna make sure it's nice and flat and you have a nice grip on it. And just put your knife about halfway in and then just gently saw. And you can see, if you want and it makes you more comfortable, you can start to pull it back a little bit until you have about half of the chicken breast. Now, these turned out pretty good. If you wanted to make them thinner, I'll show you how to do that. Just one second. Okay, if you want to make your chicken breasts a little bit thinner, which is a complete preference, get a piece of plastic. If you've got just plastic wrap or a plastic bag, and cover it, and then get something hard. If you have a hammer at home, use a hammer. This is a rolling pin, a bottle of some sort, and just give it a little pound. You don't want to pound too much. You can see what happened right here. I pounded too much, and I lost some of this. So I'm going to cut that off and save that for later. Okay, so once you have your cutlet and it's nice and thin, I'm going to cut these little stragglers. It's nice and thin. We're going to go through the process of dredging. Now, first thing you do is you do a flour. And the reason that you coat this in flour first is because it's gonna give the egg something to stick to. So we've got a good dredge on this. You can see it's nicely coated. Shake off the extra. Now your fingers have flour on them. If you stick them in the egg, then the egg is gonna stick to your fingers. So I like to keep a fork in my egg, and I'll use that to flip with. Go ahead, coat your cutlet in egg. Flip that over. Now some people will go back to flour and do a double coat, but in this case, we're not going to. We're gonna go straight into our panko. And oops, I screwed up. See what happened to I'm not gonna use that fork again. Drop it in there, use your fingers or use a fork, but you're gonna cover this really nicely. Press it on there. You want this is what's gonna make it nice and crispy. So really press it in and press that on there. Okay. Now I'm gonna go from here, and because I'm gonna fry mine in just a minute, I'm just gonna let it sit right there in my pan because I'm gonna do all my frying at once. So I'm gonna continue dredging and cutting my chicken breasts. You can see again, flour, coat it nicely. Egg wash, get that covered. And then into your panko. And panko can be used, I like panko, it tends to be a little bit crispier. It's made out of rice and it gives you a crispier crunch, or you can use breadcrumbs. Whatever you have on hand. Lots of times people do this and they'll use like potato chips or something kind of out of cracker crumbs, something out of the ordinary. All right, next up, frying. Okay, we're getting ready to fry. I have my cutlets all ready. My oil is nice and hot. And a couple key safety things. I always fry wearing long sleeves. There's been too many times when I have burned my hands. Also, if you care about your clothes, make sure you're wearing an apron because oil can splatter. My oven is at 400 or at least almost there. And I've got my pan ready to roll so that once I fry. Now the thing is, when you do and you fry these, first of all, you don't want to crowd your pan too much. And second of all, you don't want to turn them over and over. You want them to sit. That's how they get golden brown. So I'm going to put 2 in here at once because that pan's pretty big. I actually could put 3 in. 1, 2, here's my oven, it's hot. 1, 2, 3. Now just let them sit. And if you've pounded them thin, like I pounded them, you really are gonna do about 2.5 minutes per side, and that is it. But like I said, don't flip them and then flip them back. You're gonna lose all your really good crunch. So you can see the edges are starting to brown, and it's starting to get nice and crispy, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna let them go 2.5 minutes, and then I'll flip them. All right, it's been a couple minutes. You can see I already turned this first one, and look at how nice and crispy it is. The second one that I put in is ready to be turned. I have my tongs, and you just gently flip it over. Look at how golden brown that is. All that cheese looks so delicious and crunchy. I'm gonna give this third one that I put in another minute, and then as soon as I'm done with that, I'll transfer them over here to my sheet pan. Okay, I'm gonna transfer them. Really important is to kind of let that oil drip off a little bit. You don't want it to sit in the oil because it'll make it soggy. And so kind of let it drip off and then put it over here on your sheet pan. And after I finish frying all of these off, we're gonna coat this in our sauce that we have. Top it with some more cheese, pop it in the oven. Okay, I just wanna show you because it talks about it in your recipe, but if you're doing a lot of them, at this point I've done 6, and your oil starts to look like this, you might wanna change it. You never wanna dump hot oil down your drain. You want it to cool first, and then you can throw it in the trash. But in this case, when you're frying and you want to keep going, I typically just like pour it into a glass bowl or something that isn't going to burn or crack, and then set it aside and deal with it later. Okay, if you hear noise in the background, it's because my family's here now. But anyhow, I have my cutlets already fried and they're ready to go. I'm gonna take some of the sauce that we made last week and just give it a nice little douse on each one. And then finish it with a piece of mozzarella. If you don't have mozzarella, that's okay. You have the extra Parmesan cheese that you can put on top, just like that. And then we'll pop it in the oven for a few minutes. My oven's ready to roll at 400, and I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Look at this, straight out of the oven. You can see the cheese is nice and browned. And we're gonna take this, like I said, I'm putting mine on that ciabatta roll that my husband made, but you can put yours just like this, or you can put it on some pasta if you saved it. But there is your chicken Parmesan. Spoil your family with that. It's beautiful, isn't it? All right, enjoy.